What's up, everybody? It's Peter Tragos, the lawyer you know, and on this channel, we break down the trials and cases you care most about so you can understand how the American civil and criminal justice system works. And we try to make sure you understand what your rights are in every situation, which is why we try to walk you through the entire legal process while also answering your insightful questions along the way. And while it's not legal advice, it's always exciting. So buckle up for another episode of The Lawyer You Know. What's up? We're back. Friday. Got some good news and bad news. Good news is we're here. We're doing it. We're talking the rest of Murdaugh's testimony here today. Bad news. Just got home tonight from the conference. Been out. We went hibachi for dinner, which was fun with the kids. And then we went to Congo River Golf. So, while I did listen to everything today, some of the timestamps are not quite as good as they usually are. So we'll work through it together. Hopefully it's not too clunky. Me and Maverick beat Whitney and Brooke. It wasn't overall an amazing performance by anybody, but we got it done. The boys got it done tonight. Welcome in. Thank you, everyone, for joining me here. It's been another long week, but we've made it to Friday. And we've made it to the end of Alec Murdaugh's testimony. So we are going to dig in to how it went, how we felt the lawyers did, how we felt, I guess you can include Alec Murdaugh in that since he is a lawyer. But hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Like the video if you haven't already. The last video has the most likes of any Murdaugh video ever. I think it had 13,000 likes, something like that, which was amazing. It's awesome to see stuff like that happen, things we've really never done before. All the new subscribers, welcome. Pretty wild. And it's just crazy to continue to see the community grow. I mean, we're at spots I never thought we'd be, but enough of that. All right. Enough of that. Subscribe if you haven't already. So, all right, let's get started here. John's not in, and so it's hard for me to do this at the same time. All right, here he is. Hopefully he stays this time. All right, hopefully it works. Here we go. Let's start with where they started the day, which was, of course, with, you guessed it, more financial crimes. And they talked more about money at the beginning of the day today, picking up where we left off. Wasn't quite as long or laborious. Emily hit 700,000 today. Somebody just put in the chat. That's wild. That's awesome. 700,000. Congratulations. Other people said I ordered my first lemon perfect water, which I happen to be drinking again tonight because I'm here. And I'm getting a lot of emails from people ordering them, which is hilarious. They have not reached out yet, though, of course. Okay, so we are here waiting for confirmation that John is in. And then we will start. Okay, more financial stuff. Your stealing increased as you went on. Your income diminished after 2015. Then we got some interesting answers to how much money he was making. In case anybody was wondering how much he was making, I think just from the law firm would be my guess. 2014, over $1 million. 2015, over $2 million. 2016, 900,000. 2017, 200,000, which was interesting. 2018, 700. 2019, 600. So it had kind of started to not be as good as it once was. But that's the nature of the business, he said. It ebbs and flows. Sometimes it's hard to have a consistent cash flow as a personal injury lawyer. You hit a big case, you get paid a lot of money that year. You have a slower year, and you don't have as good of a year at the end income-wise. So, interesting information that we got to learn. He was always getting loans from Johnny Parker. He talked about more clients again, Barrett Boulware. And then we finally moved on from the financial crimes and started talking about pills. And again, it feels like Creighton Waters is watching you all and listening to the questions that you all have, because he wants to know, how is it possible you're taking this many pills? 30 milligrams of oxycodone and Oxycontin, 1,000 to sometimes over 2,000 milligrams a day, 60 pills a day. Seems insane. A lot of you were doing the math. I don't know if that comes up to $50,000 a month. But he is clearly getting into details that he feels is impossible. And anybody that has any experience with that would kind of be able to tell whether or not he was telling the truth, whether or not he was lying, things like that. Let's see here. He said opiates would give him energy, made things more interesting, driving, work, etc. And he said that they actually were helpful to him in his work, which is interesting because I wouldn't necessarily think that. He would immediately take pills when he woke up. He would have withdrawals. He explained the withdrawals, fidgets, diarrhea, horrible symptoms, makes it tough to self-detox. And then we got to some paranoia, which we knew. We knew we were going to get here. When did it first start? Was it June of 2021? That's what Waters was thinking, and that's kind of what Waters wanted. Murdaugh was like, no, started way before, which was the right answer, frankly. It only would last a matter of seconds. I'd be able to get it to go away with a deep breath. I would always have pills in my pocket. If I drove by a cop, I would be nervous. I would be paranoid. It was that kind of thing. It had nothing to do with the money stuff. Money stuff never made me paranoid. So he didn't never have to worry about that. Okay. So he had some good answers for the paranoia, I thought. Paul, the little detective, he basically said, I didn't really call him that. But then later we heard in an interview again, him calling the little detective, saying he was intuitive. They were watching you like a hawk. He's like, they were always watching me like a hawk. Murdaugh was talking so much more than Waters. Waters was rolling his eyes and being kind of sarcastic. And I'm not sure that the jury was picking it up quite the same way Creighton Waters may have thought based on a lot of your comments. A lot of you are not fond of Creighton Waters after this cross-examination. You can let me know if you think that that is not the case and you disagree. Let me see what else we got here. He cries when he explains that he promised Paul as soon as his boat criminal case was over, he would go to rehab. Paul agreed to convince Maggie that the pills were just for the eye surgery. So that was interesting. And he cried during that part. And then we get to a really, really interesting part of the discussion that I was pretty shocked to. So a lot of people are saying, I love Creighton. I love Waters. Okay. All right. Creighton was great. All right. So none of you are following me on Instagram here. So get on Instagram at Tragos Law, because everybody was hating on him on Instagram. I don't think he's that bad. I think he has a certain style. It's a little theatrical. It's a little sarcastic and eye-rolly and like almost like scoffs at certain things. I think sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But this was really shocking to me to hear this part that we're going to listen to together, the first part that we're going to listen to. When Murdaugh starts talking about the fact that they have been trying to reach out to Creighton Waters to talk about these financial crimes, and they refuse to talk about them, which is just shocking to me to think about.
When I got arrested and I went to jail, we began reaching out to you to talk to you about all of these things, to try to tell you everything that I'd done, to give you all these details to help y'all go through these financial things. And up until the time that y'all charged me with murdering my wife and child, you would never give Jim Griffin a response to our invitations to sit down and meet with you.
That's interesting to me, that they offered to sit down and meet with him and talk about the financial crimes. And he said he wants to give his partners closures and things like that, but they refused. which is kind of crazy to me. Like, that is really, really wild to me that the AG's office would not sit down and talk about crimes for which they had charged him with. Why didn't they want the easy conviction? People are saying the audio is too fast. All right, I'll slow it down a little bit, but we don't have, it's impossible for me to get as many clips in at normal speed. I know some people get frustrated by that. Sorry. So I think it is true. Based on people are saying who says that's true. Based on Waters' responses, I absolutely believe that. Bellhorse, he's lying. I absolutely disagree with you. Angela, lies. And I know a lot of these people are amazing people that I'm putting on here. I thought that was a lie. Okay, so listen. Everybody's saying that's a lie. Here's how you know it's not a lie. Creighton would absolutely call it out if it was a lie. So let's listen to exactly what Creighton calls out, because we're going to listen to that together right now.
You're telling me I never responded to Jim Griffin? Is that what you're saying here today?
I'm telling you.
Are you saying that you ever before yesterday reached out to anyone through yourself or through your attorneys and reached out to anyone in law enforcement or the prosecution and told them the story about the kennels? Are you telling me?
So what does he say? What does he say never happened? He says, you never reached out to talk about the kennels ever before, did you? He didn't say you reached out about the financial stuff. No, you didn't. That's just another lie you're telling. If that was a lie, you better believe Waters would have blown it up, and he didn't. I absolutely do not think that that was a lie. Regardless, it doesn't really matter. But it's just really interesting to me. Waters very smartly flips it and says, yeah, but you never said that. You never told that story. And let's see how Alec deals with that.
I mean, that.
What I'm telling you,
answer my
Mr.
question
Waters
first, please, sir. Answer my question first. Did you ever reach out to anyone in law enforcement or the prosecution and tell that story that you told this jury yesterday about the kennels before yesterday?
Did I ever reach out to law enforcement to say, I want to tell you about the kennels? No, sir, I did not.
To the Fifth Amendment line.
Pardon?
This questioning about him volunteering information on these charges violates his Fifth Amendment rights, and we strongly object. Any more, we have to make a motion.
He means make a motion for a mistrial. He strongly objects, which you know how judges love when lawyers strongly object. He's right. It is bordering on that. And he makes the argument later. Problem is, Alec has told so many stories that they are allowed to talk about what he didn't tell when he did speak to police and how he may have misled, may have lied, things like that. He is allowed to talk through things like that. He is allowed to get into some of that without violating the Fifth Amendment. So, frankly, I think it's probably a gray area, and the judge is going to let it. So the judge let him talk about it. No shot would I do that as a prosecutor. I'm not taking those kind of risks in cases like this, but I do think they don't have a lot of evidence of murder, so they got to convict him of being a liar and a financial fraud, which is basically what they're sticking to.
Objections overruled.
Shocker.
What I did was, so
Answer my question first, sir.
You know, for the record, he did not bring it. He was talking about financial
Sit down,
stuff.
Mr. Griffin.
It's really frustrating, right? I'll just tell you, like, really, really frustrating for me to watch that. That's one of the really frustrating things about practicing criminal defense. Everybody hates your client, so you're the bad guy. You don't get any leeway. People like it when the judge tells you to sit down and shut up, basically. Yep, Mike saying, yeah, sit down. I get it. Everybody loves that. But he was right. Murdaugh did not bring up the kennel stuff. He brought up the financial crimes, and then Waters flipped it into the kennel stuff. So technically, he was right. Hold on. We've got, just in case you can't tell how miserably distracted I am, we've got all sorts of issues going on in the background. So hopefully Whitney can come get this computer so I can actually pay attention and not have to also try to watch the chat. All right. All right, let's listen some more.
Yes or no question. Before yesterday, did you ever bring up what you told this jury about that kennels to anybody in the prosecution or anybody in law enforcement?
no, I didn't have the opportunity to, Mr. Waters, because you would not respond to my invitations to reach out and tell you about all the things that I've done wrong. And to talk about bringing this to a head, to talk about bringing this to closure. I understand how many people I hurt. I understand how angry my partners are and how hurt they are. And I understand how hurt these people that I stole money from are. I understand how hurt they are. And one of the things that I believe is
Should just be
getting
able to
past
sign
this
right in.
may help them get some closure. And so since at least January, I've been trying to sit down with y'all to talk to y'all.
Okay.
And never, ever got a response to the multiple requests. Yes, sir, multiple requests.
All right, go ahead.
I would
Thank
ask
you.
about this.
Let's
every
let's
few
ask
weeks.
this, sir.
Sir?
Did Mark Ball ever hear your story to the jury about the kennels until yesterday? Your buddy and law partner, Mark Ball?
Listen, I haven't spoken to Mark Ball since I went to rehab.
And these were the same law partners that you were listening to the night of. Is that what you testified to this jury earlier? You testified to that earlier, did you not?
I don't understand your question.
Didn't you testify earlier that you were listening to your law partners on the night of the incident?
Was I listening to them?
Yeah, you testified to that. It's a simple question, sir.
I'm sure I was. When are you talking about?
On June 8th in the early morning hours, you testified to this jury that you were listening to them, but you never told them the kennel story either. And they heard it for the first time yesterday as well. Isn't that correct?
Yes, that's the first time they heard it.
First time that Ronnie Crosby ever heard that would have been yesterday.
If he was listening, that would have been the first time he heard
First
it.
time John Parker ever heard that was yesterday.
Yes.
First time Danny Henderson, who was representing you in the boat case, ever heard that was yesterday.
Yes, yesterday is the first time that I have said that openly.
And again, I think that's a great point by Waters. I think that he continues to beat it home. And I think he does a great job of making sure everybody knows the first time anybody's ever heard it. And I think Alec continues to try to explain that. But it all depends on what the jury thinks. And I love people in the chat saying, Peter's so biased. He's so biased for the defense. I had plenty of compliments for Waters throughout the cross that I got hated on Twitter as well. I don't like Alec Murdaugh as a person at all. But if we are going to allow this type of railroading and to bring in everything and every lie somebody's told in their life and bring it in to prove that they are a murderer or lying about saying that they don't murder, you realize how that goes, right? Somebody calls you a liar and then accuses you of something and says, well, of course he's going to lie and say he didn't do it. Good luck. I really hope this never happens to anybody. I really, because if it can happen to Alec Murdaugh, a rich and powerful lawyer, I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody's lied. I'm pretty sure everybody on the planet has lied about something. And are we going to draw a line? Well, he's lied about a lot of things. So it's okay to lie about some stuff, but not lie about others. Just because he lied doesn't mean he committed these crimes. And I think Mark Ball put it perfectly. I'm not saying that, okay, and let's just go step by step here. I'm not saying that he did not commit these crimes. Okay? I want to make that clear. He very, very well could have, and he could get convicted for it. But they should prove it based on evidence of these crimes. That's all I'm saying. As simple as that. That's what I'm saying. And people get really frustrated about that. And people say, you're biased. You must really like Alec Murdaugh, or you really like these lawyers. I don't know these lawyers. I don't know Alec Murdaugh. I really dislike him if I think about it, because he is doing the type of law that I do and taking advantage of the people that I work for that need it, that need our help. Oh, this is so miserable. I wish I could explain to you guys how miserable it is to sit here and not be able to do this. All right. All right, let's keep going. If super chats get missed tonight, you have my apologies, everyone, on the record here. Okay, let's keep watching, because he has some interesting explanations here. And I thought there was a pretty good aha moment for Waters that Murdaugh, again, he knows this case better than Waters. He does. He's studied it. He's lived it. And of course, the immediate response on Twitter was, that's because he was there and he did it. So of course he knows more. What I meant was the data, the documents, the statements. He knows this case inside and out.
But that's not what you were asking me, Mr. Waters, but you go ahead.
First time your brother Randy heard that was yesterday.
If he was listening. And Mr. Waters, just to be clear, I was begging for a meeting with y'all to try to bring this to a close, to talk to y'all about everything up until the time that y'all charged me with hurting Maggie and Paul. Now, after that point in time, I stopped, obviously.
You were begging for a meeting, but you admit information was never conveyed that you wanted to change your story after multiple interviews with law enforcement about what happened that night, including the most important fact of all, which is when the last time you supposedly saw your wife and son alive was.
I don't know exactly what was conveyed or not because I wasn't part of it. All I know is what I was trying to do was to sit down. I understood to bring all this to a close that y'all would want me to sit down and go through all of these financial things, all of these things that I'd done wrong. And to try to bring that to a close, I was repeatedly trying to sit down with y'all.
The reality is, Mr. Murdaugh, is the reason why no one's ever heard that before is because you had to sit in this courtroom and hear your family and your friends, one after the other, come in and testify that you were on that kennel video. So you, like you've done so many times over the course of your life, had to back up and make a new story that kind of fit with the facts that can't be denied. Isn't that?
He's right. It can't be denied. He's kind of making the play for both sides here. I think that's a good point. You had to sit there and do all this. So you got pushed to finally admit it. The first time you ever told it was here today or yesterday. All good points. The problem is, what I don't like is, just like you had done so many times before, financial crimes with the side of the road incident. It's like, I thought that was motive. Now are we saying it's propensity? Because that's literally not allowed. And my favorite thing is on Twitter when somebody responds and is like, clearly, if he's capable of doing this, he's capable of doing that. If he did this, he's more likely to do that. It's like, that's literally why it's not allowed in. Those are the rules we have in place so that people don't get railroaded because they made mistakes in the past. They were a bad person, whatever, maybe they were a drug addict. That doesn't mean they did everything everybody ever said they did. It's important. I want us to think about this, okay? The whole point of this is to learn and to think together. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's not even to guess what the outcome is going to be. I don't know what the outcome is going to be. It could be guilty, could be not guilty, could be a hung jury, could be a mistrial. I have no idea. That's not why you should come here if you want me to try to predict the outcome. Because I honestly, your guess is as good as mine, probably better than mine because you guys are all right. You are more likely to be jurors in this case, as I always say, than I am. But can we just prove what happened? And if he says that this is how it happened, prove him wrong. That's what I would like. That's your burden as the state. It's not his burden to prove that he's innocent. That is not his burden. He's trying to do it, it seems like, but that's not his burden. That's not how it works. And Leslie D., if you have good legal arguments, you don't need to resort to sarcasm and condescension. You'd be shocked how many lawyers try to use this. Sometimes it works.
No, sir, that's not true.
You've done that over and over again over the years with all of this that we've been talking about, haven't you?
I've done what over and over again?
The second that you're confronted with facts that you can't deny, you immediately come up with a new lie.
That is an appeal. I'm sorry. I know I keep stopping. Like, he even at one point started to talk about how maybe drugs and hiding the drugs was the motive for the crime because the little detective Paul was intuitive and looking into him. And he was watching him like a hawk and he found another bag. It's like, wait, is it covering up for the pills? That's the motive? Then why did we hear 5 days of financial crimes evidence and another day of the side of the road incident? Why did we hear 5 hours of cross-examination on financial crimes? If drugs and hiding drugs was the motive. That's weird. It can't be, or else you automatically lose an appeal. If now you say that wasn't the motive and something else was.
Isn't that correct?
Mr. Waters, have we established, I have lied many times, but I can't sit here and tell you that, what are you talking about, facts that I can't deny? That I would disagree with that proposition that you're putting out, that was what I did all the time. But in doing that, I admit again that I've lied to people that trusted me.
So we can agree that prosecution and law enforcement and so many of your friends and family heard for the first time your story about the kennels yesterday after all these weeks of testimony. Can we agree on that?
That law enforcement, my partners, and my friends heard me say that for the first time. Yes, I agree with that.
Would you agree with me that your own lawyer was repeating your story that you were at home napping as late as November of 22?
Zing. That's where I was like, oh, first off, attorney-client privilege-ish, maybe a little bit. But also, that's pretty damning too. Never even told his lawyer. But now he gets up on the stand and says it. However, I will say, if it is a lie, it's a good lie because he still said he may have dozed off on the couch. So it still technically could be true that he dozed off on the couch. But I thought that was great by Waters. But Alec Murdaugh is smart. Okay? I know people took issue with me saying he was a good lawyer. Like, I think he was a good lawyer. Now, I liked his description of was he successful because I do believe that he doesn't think he was successful, and I agree. I would not say he, as we sit here today, is a successful lawyer, but he looked successful. He looked like he had a successful career. He had a lot of successful results for his clients, not end results since they didn't get the money, but he is not a dumb guy. And he listens. He listened so much better than Creighton Waters did. He paid attention so much better. We're going to hear more of it. I don't want to jump ahead, but listen to how he explains this. Your lawyers went on TV in November of 2022 and, said that you were dozing on the couch or sleeping on the couch. Sounds like a zinger.
Television.
I don't know.
You don't know that?
No, in jail, we don't get newspapers, and the TV we have is limited. So
your own lawyers, at least as late as November 22, didn't know the story that you've told to this jury after 5 weeks of your family and friends coming in and saying, yeah, that's him on that video.
I don't know.
Your Honor, violates attorney-client privilege communication. Totally improper. Totally improper.
Yes, sir. Response.
He has brought up his communications with counsel, and now that is fair game, Your Honor. His communications through counsel or alleged communications with the prosecution.
He didn't.
No, that's not.
Attorney-client privilege to national.
That does not include attorney-client privilege, but Waters did ask about what was on the TV show or whatever, and the judge makes the right call here, allowing it, because he didn't say what did you tell your lawyer or anything like that. Waters was trying to argue like he waived privilege. Absolutely not.
Television interviews. The objection is overruled.
You said you were unaware of that national television interview. Is that what you said?
Unaware of what national television interview?
The one where your lawyer repeated that story as late as November of 2022. Your story that you were actually home asleep at the house.
The only national TV ad that I'm aware of is program is one that Mr. Griffin was involved in. Are you referring to like a Dateline something?
I'm talking about HBO.
Okay, HBO. All right, I am aware of that. And what I believe the case to be is that I believe that when that was in its works, that Mr. Griffin made those statements sometime substantially before November of 22, as early as around the very beginning of 2021.
Well, let's talk.
Now listen, in case you can't tell, Waters likes to argue. He likes to have aha moments. He likes to throw things in Murdaugh's face. That was a slimy question to say as late as November of 2022 And he did not even react when Murdaugh was like, I think that was actually said in early 2021 or mid 2021 or whatever. And no reaction, which makes me think that's probably correct by Alec Murdaugh. And he just immediately moves on. Who in the chat here thinks Creighton Waters would have just moved on if he had Alec Murdaugh there and it was actually recorded in November of 2022? I do not like stuff like that. I don't like stuff like that. I don't like twisting words. I don't like gotcha when it's not true. If it's true, great. Do the gotcha all day. I don't like stuff like that. Thank you. A lot of people coming to my aid. I know you guys. I know it's all love. I know. Sometimes I get frustrated, but I appreciate all of you guys coming to back me up. Got the army coming, the army of jurors. I thought his explanation of, here's the thing. Do I think here, let me ask myself some questions. Do I think Alec Murdaugh lied on the stand over the last 2 days? Yes. Do I think he told some honest things? Said some honest things? Yes. Do I think that his explanations are more plausible than the state's and Creighton Waters' sarcastic cross-examination? Actually, yes. For most of them. Not all of them, but most of them, yes. And here's one. Totally plausible. The CFO confronts him, and that was supposed to be like, oh no, the world's crashing. Murdaugh's like, it was not a confrontation. She came in and was like apologetic that she even had to ask me a question. She almost seemed scared to ask me a question. So I in no way thought she was going to like push back. I thought I was going to be able to like, oh yeah, brush it off like I always did. Coming from a lawyer, if one of my staff members come in my office and ask me a question, I don't think I've ever had a confrontation. I'll just put it that way with one of them asking me a question. Secondly, we have evidence that this has happened multiple times and he's been able to get away with it. So what was different about 6/7, about June 7th? And that was one of the discussions they had where I just felt like Murdaugh's story was more plausible. They talked about looking for hogs. Murdaugh's like, because Waters was trying to go down a line of questioning that you guys had the 300 blackout, didn't you? You guys had that gun. You guys were hunting with it. And then it disappeared. Must be the murder weapon. Murdaugh's like, yeah, no. We would never be looking for hogs in the daylight. They aren't out. They're way back in. Paying attention. Understanding. Smart. Liar. Okay, if you guys want me to qualify and say it every time. Big mistakes, drug addict, liar, screwed people over. I'll say it every time. But there's also positives. Would I want to be this guy's friend? No, keep me as far away from this guy as possible. Okay. Would I ever send a client to this guy? Absolutely not. Okay. I'm not trying to say that, but he has some positive qualities as well. And we're seeing them on the stand. That's the point. Then we start discussing the timeline. And a lot of you guys like to ask, how would you do it? It's Monday morning quarterbacking. It's not fair. Waters is in it. It's so much more stressful. I'm sure people could watch my trials and be like, oh, why didn't he just slow down and ask this or do that? Or what? It's like, it's so stressful. I get it. Okay. But Waters takes him through the timeline slowly. Starting with, how'd you get down to the kennels? Okay. I drove down there. How long does it take you to get down there? A minute or two. It takes me a minute in the truck, maybe twice as long in the golf cart. Okay. 2 minutes. Okay. So you go down there. You say hi to Paul and Maggie or whatever. Yes, Paul was not in the kennel when I first got there. I say hello to them, whatever. Paul takes the video. Then Buster comes up, or Bubba comes up to me with the chicken in his mouth or whatever. It's like, okay. So video ends at 8:45. How long does it take you to get the chicken out? 30 seconds. Well, couldn't it take you a minute? Okay, Mr. Waters, I'll say it takes me a minute. So 8:45, now we're at 8:46 and a half. And then what happened? Well, I left right after there. Oh, yeah, right. Sarcastic. Roll your eyes. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. But you're asking him the question and he's telling you he left right after. So now that's an evidence. If the jury believes it, he's innocent, not just not guilty. If the jury maybe doesn't believe it, but you haven't proven that something else happened, then maybe he's still not guilty. Because he says he left immediately after. He said something like goodbye or I'm leaving or something like that. Because exactly what I didn't want to do, get all sweaty, mess with the dogs, clean stuff up, whatever is what was happening. And I didn't want to do that. So, okay, another 30 seconds to a minute to say goodbye. Well, that's pretty short, blah, 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 fine. So 6:47 and a half, 6:48, whatever. So then you have to drive back to the house. Takes a minute or two. Let's say 6:49, sorry, 8:49, let's say 8:50. Okay, 8:50, I'm back at the house. Between 8:49 and 8:50, immediately go inside, lay down on the couch, TV's on. And we know you can't hear the shots in the house because the defense expert. So what did Creighton Waters just do? He just let Murdaugh clearly explain a plausible explanation as to how he could have been at the kennels at 8:44, 8:45, and still back at the house by 8:49 or 8:50, laying on the couch, dozing off, TV on, whatever it may be, not hearing the shots. Why would you do that? Instead, here's what I would have done. I thought about this just a little bit as I was listening to it. I would have said, we can both agree you were down at the kennels at 8:45, right? Yes. Okay. So when that video ended 8:45, you were able to talk to Maggie and Paul, take the chicken out, put Buster back in the kennel, say goodbye to them, clean off your hands or whatever you had to do after taking the chicken out of her mouth, getting in the golf cart, driving back to the house, getting in a position where you weren't able to hear the blackout shots, all in 4 minutes. And then he can try to be like, oh, well, I did this, or we don't know time of death or whatever, and let him try to give excuses. But I would have just made it sound like all this stuff you had to do, and you really think you did it in 4 minutes? As opposed to the back and forth of, does this take 30 seconds or a minute? A minute and a half? Well, that's a short conversation, but okay. Just make it sound like way too much that could possibly happen in that short period of time. And then 902 to 906, there was some interesting discussion there about what he did. I would have said something like, so you did nothing from 902 to 906, right? You did nothing. I can't believe Murdaugh did not have an answer for what he did from 902 to 906 after sitting this trial. Now, if I'm the defense, I say, this proves he's not concocting a story, he's not making up lies, or if he was making up lies, he would fill every hole, and he wasn't filling every hole. But if you're the prosecutor, you say, oh, you remember details about certain things, but not others. This is lawyering. This is what lawyers do. And jurors have to cut through all of it and try to figure out what is the truth. But beyond what the truth is, what do we know beyond a reasonable doubt happened in June of 2021? No cell phone activity. He did bring up, oh, you don't remember your last conversation with Maggie. He's like, oh, I do remember my last conversation. Then Waters moved on. A couple weird times he moved on. But some weird things about Alec Murdaugh. And he was a drug addict, dealing with a lot. Father died, wife and son died, all this stuff. He doesn't really remember last moments with them. He doesn't ever say things like, if I would have been there, I'd either be gone with them or maybe I would have been able to do something. I wish I would have been able to do something. He did say at some point she was as safe as she could have possibly have been because Paul was there, and you're super safe with Paul because he's a man's man, a tough guy. But he never really was like, what if? There wasn't a lot of what ifs. And they did bring that up, and Maggie's sister said some what ifs and some regrets that she had. So I did think that was interesting. But I also liked the way that Waters dug in a little bit on the 902 to 906. But then I had another thought after, and this is something I'm just going back and forth. I'm trying to find the positives and the way each side can use this evidence. That's really what you should come here for. If I was a lawyer, since I've been a lawyer, been a prosecutor, been a criminal defense lawyer, been a lawyer on both sides, how would I use it if I was a prosecutor on this case? How would I use it if I was the defense attorney? So let's listen to how Waters kind of tried to pick apart the 902 to 906 with 280 steps or whatever that is.
Phones locked for the final time around 8:40. Data doesn't show who's carrying it, but that's what it shows. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then you would agree with me that from 902 to 906, your phone finally comes to life and starts showing a lot of steps.
I do agree with that.
What were you doing?
I was getting ready to go to my mom's house.
Getting ready to go? I thought you took a shower already. You were just laying down on the couch. What all you need to do to get ready to go to your mom's house?
I mean, there wasn't anything to get ready in that aspect, but I was getting ready to go. I was preparing to leave.
So doing what?
I don't know if I got up, went to the bathroom. I don't know. I can't tell you exactly what I was doing.
That's far more steps in a shorter time period than any time prior, as you've seen from the testimony in this case. So what were you so busy doing?
That's,
Going to the bathroom?
no, I don't.
I actually think he should have kind of dropped it right there. I think he made his point. But then he starts to get sarcastic like he always does. And look at the differences in their demeanor. Murdaugh seems calm, like he's just trying to answer his questions. He did not seem like he was being a jerk or argumentative a single time throughout these 2 days to me. You guys, that may be different. Did he seem like a liar? Yes, at times. He did not seem like a jerk. So when one person's being a jerk and the other one isn't, usually it's easy to spot the a-hole. So that was one of the problems with Waters, I thought, in some of these things.
I don't think that I
Get on the treadmill?
went to the bathroom. No, I didn't get on the treadmill.
Jog in place?
Nope, I didn't jog in
Jumping
place.
jacks?
No, sir, I did not do jumping jacks.
What were you doing, Mr. Murdaugh, for those 4 minutes?
Preparing to leave from my mom's house.
What? What does that mean? I mean, you're in the front room on that couch where you say you laid down. The Suburban's just right outside. What all are you doing?
I don't know if I got up and went to my room, went to the gun room, went back in that.
You've been so clear in your new story about everything. What were you doing during these 4 minutes?
I disagree with your assertion about every detail. I don't recall. I know that I was getting up and I was leaving. I was going to check on my mom. That's specifically what I was doing. I don't know.
You knew all this other stuff, blah, blah. It's like, I feel like you didn't know a lot of details. Shelly T thought Waters knocked it out of the park. New here. Awesome. Welcome, Shelly. Glad you're joining us. And again, I feel like there was a pretty even split on people that loved Waters, hated Waters, thought Murdaugh did a good job, thought Murdaugh did a bad job. So I'm not really sure if the jury, I'm not sure if any juror was moved one way or the other. They probably believed what they already believed before he started testifying. That would be my guess at this point. It's so funny. Right after that comment is Cynthia's comment. He came off so bad. Yeah. I mean, again, and this is a good kind of contrast of the types of thoughts that are out there. I said to play for one more minute. Let's see if anything else comes up here.
I know what I wasn't doing, Mr. Waters, and what I wasn't doing is doing anything, as I believe you've implied, that I was cleaning off or washing off guns, or putting guns in a raincoat, and I can promise you that I wasn't doing any of that.
Okay.
So I heard some people say, oh, he slipped up and said I wasn't washing off guns. He clearly said that you have implied I was washing off guns and I wasn't doing any of that. And here's what I remembered I wanted to say. So in 280 steps, huge amount, making it seem like a marathon, okay? Not really a marathon, but also if you know he took 280 steps, go to the kennel, go to the house, wherever, take 280 steps in every direction, actually only 140 because you'd have to come back 140, draw a circle and get the cavalry out there and search everywhere. Because we know he didn't bring anything into mom's house. I shouldn't say that. Some people do think that he brought the guns in the raincoat. That just seems like so far-fetched to me that he did that. But, okay, let's assume he somehow just put the guns in there and made them disappear at the mom's house. Okay, which would have been lucky for him because Sled didn't even check there. But the clothes. We know he didn't get into the car with the bloody clothes, right? There was no blood besides the steering wheel or whatever. Or little drips here and there. There was not enough blood in the car for him to have had the bloody clothes in the car. So we at the very least had to get rid of his bloody clothes in this period of time. So draw that circle, search everywhere within the 140 steps, and you should be able to find his clothes somewhere or blood somewhere. But of course, they didn't do that. And that's what it comes down to. I mean, they just didn't do it. They didn't do their job. And I'm sorry for those that want, And I don't understand why people are mad about this. He has admitted to crimes that are going to put him behind bars for the rest of his life. He's not going home free. None of that is happening. All right. He talked about how it makes no sense for him to lie to Shelley because, he knew the data was coming. The state uses that against him in the future. The 911 timeline I thought was an interesting little back and forth as well. And another situation where I think Alec just listened better than Waters because and he listened better than hopefully that didn't just come unplugged. He listened better than me as well because I thought Waters got him again. Literally, I'm like getting ready to type a tweet. Oh, he got him. We've already talked about this, how he said, oh, I went and called him, but he said he touched the bodies before he called them, and now he's saying he didn't. Which is it, Alec? Did you touch the bodies or not? You only had 20 seconds. But if he's lying, he listened and made up a good lie. Because let's listen to this exchange a little bit and how there are kind of multiple explanations as to how you could see the timeline of when he checked the bodies versus when he called 911.
All right. As a state of Bendigo and Lower Rutland with Tonkin County on the sled.
You don't have any problem. Like when I came back here, I pulled up and I could see him, and I knew something was bad. I ran out, I knew it was really bad, and my boy over there, I could see it was. And I could see his brain on. And I ran over to Maggie. And actually, I think I tried to turn Paul over first. I tried to turn him over, and I don't know. I figured it out. His cell phone popped out of his pocket. I started to try to do something with it, thinking maybe, but then I put it back down really quickly. Then I went to my wife, and I could see.
Did you touch Maggie at all?
I did. I touched them both. I tried to do it as limited as possible, but I tried to take their pulse on both of them. And, I called 911 pretty much right away, and she was very good. I talked to her. I told her I was going to get off the phone to call some.
All right. So, did he touch him first or did he call 911 first? The way he told the story is that he touched him first. Came up, looked around, checked their pulse, did all that, then called 911. That's what I've kind of felt the whole time. But let's listen closely to that last part again, just really quick.
Very good. And, I called 911 pretty much right away.
I called 911 pretty much right away. Cop didn't clarify. Did you call 911 before you took the pulses, or did you call 911 after? Did you check the pulse while you were on the phone with them? Which I think is kind of interesting. Then we heard a little bit about how there was a minute delay and those kind of things. So I think there is some wiggle room and some gray area even in this, which I thought was a slam dunk home run for Creighton Waters at first, but I actually thought the way Murdaugh explained it today, I don't know. I thought he wiggled out of a lot today, and I didn't think the state did a good enough job pinning him down. Everyone was telling him not to talk to law enforcement. Obviously, we all know that. More paranoia talk, good explanation about why he was paranoid and he lied. A lot of discussion about why he decided or when he decided to lie. Did you decide to lie now? Decide to lie later? And I think he brought it home with a pretty good answer at the end, although more I think about it, it's possible it fell flat as well with the jury. Then another thing that was pretty shocking to me was the distrust for SLED. We heard the reason why today. And Waters said it was another new lie. But to me, Waters never really asked him why he distrusted SLED yesterday. And today we heard about SLED manufacturing charges against his friend. Alec and his dad came and sat at the trial with some years back, and how they dealt with Paul's boating case. And I believed him. And Waters didn't argue with him when he said that they manufactured charges. Did you notice that? What Waters didn't do throughout this cross-examination was really interesting to me as well. He didn't argue when he said they manufactured charges against his friend. It's a pretty good reason to distrust local law enforcement if they're making up charges against people. The person who did this on June 7th hated Paul, and that's the only reason somebody hated him that much was from the boat case. And he's like, I know this for a fact or something like this. And this is after he said it wasn't anybody right involved, any of the victims or anything like that. And he didn't say, so who was it specifically? Which I thought was interesting. If I was Waters, I would have been like, tell me who specifically it was then. Who hated him that much? Because he would have said, oh, I don't know. But instead, he gets a little loud with him here. And again, I thought at the same time, and this is always interesting, at the same time, I thought Waters made a great point and Alec Murdaugh gave a good response at the same time, if that's possible. So let's watch it together here.
And that is the only reason that somebody could be mad at Paul like that and hate him like that.
Gotcha. All right, so we've got now.
But that's why I did then believe it was the boat wreck, and I believe now that the boat wreck
all right, so
had something to do with it.
All right, so we've got random vigilantes because of the boat wreck.
Now, I don't know that they're random vigilantes.
Well, you just said it wasn't the family or the kid or the kids or the family of the other kids in the boat, right? So you're saying it's somebody off of social media. And you don't have any evidence of that, do you? You just believe that.
Why is he giving him these answers? That's what I don't get. Ask. Oh, so who was it then? But he's saying, oh, it was somebody off social media. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. If I'm a juror that believes Alec Murdaugh didn't do this, Waters just gave me the answer. But here's where he gets to the good kind of hammer question.
On that jury, that as you try to explain the lie that you told for the first time yesterday, isn't that right?
No, sir, that's not right.
It's not right. All right. Well, let me ask you a question then. So what you're telling this jury is that it's a random vigilante.
That's your
12-year-old, the 12-year-old 5'2" people that just happened to.
Besides that, I hate that they call it a 12-year-old. And I heard some people tweeting about how the prosecution thinks that's really funny. The rest of the courtroom does not.
Know that Paul and Maggie were both at Moselle on June 7th.
Let me back it up.
They would be at the kennels.
Back it up just so you can get the full effect of this question, because I do think it's a good question.
It's not. You're telling that jury that as you try to explain the lie that you told for the first time yesterday, isn't that right?
No, sir, that's not right.
It's not right. All right. Well, let me ask you a question then. So what you're telling this jury is that it's a random vigilante.
That's your
12-year-old, the 12-year-old 5'2" people that just happened to know that Paul and Maggie were both at Moselle on June 7th. That knew that they would be at the kennels alone on June the 7th. They knew that you would not be there, but only between the times of 8:49 and 9:02. That they show up without a weapon, assuming that they're going to find weapons and ammunition there. That they commit this crime during that short time window, and then they travel the same exact route that you do around the same time to Alameda. That's what you're trying to tell this jury?
You got a lot of factors in there, Mr. Waters, all of which I do not agree with, but some of which I do.
I actually thought that was a good answer, but the question was awesome. All this stuff that you guys have been saying, everybody who thinks he's guilty and thinks these unanswered questions or these things that are unfathomable, I think Waters hit them all basically in that question. So I really think that was a good question by Waters. Said it to the jury. Hopefully the jury was listening if you guys think Alec Murdaugh did this, because I think that was a really good question and point to get across there. But I also thought Alec didn't try to argue with him. He was just like, I agree with some of the stuff you said. I disagree with some of the stuff you said. He was not in a hurry to Alameda. And Waters, and here's the other thing. You can tell the evidence that Waters agrees is not actually that strong, because he'll say it once, like, you were in a hurry to get to Alameda, weren't you? And he was like, no, I was not in a hurry. And he didn't want to give him the chance to say I was just going around a car or whatever. He just kind of, that one went real quick. We took 7 hours on finance, but whether or not he sped to Alameda, we didn't argue about that, because I don't think that the data actually proves that. There was a part where Waters said, you never told that lie till yesterday. And Murdaugh was like, I'm not sure what you're saying. Are you saying that it's a lie? Because I'm not saying it's a lie. Because he's listening to the questions, which is really important. And a lot of lay witnesses don't do that. Another interview where he said last time you saw them was when you were eating. Yes, sir. Talked about how he kept repeating the same lie over and over again. More about when was your decision to lie. And there were multiple times throughout cross where Murdaugh was like, I totally disagree with you about that, or you are wrong about that. And then I felt like as we continue to go on, Murdaugh ended up being right multiple times. Just like when they talked about the 300 blackout. Oh, you said it was stolen here. It's like, sir, it was missing. We don't know whether it was stolen or missing or whatever, but when I reported it missing, it was actually missing. And Waters didn't push back on it. And he's like, we heard all these witnesses say, I don't even know if they got an extra one. I don't know what happened with this one. They all were just using Buster's gun. So I think they proved that I was right about that. Again, not an important fact, but just about Murdaugh's really paying attention, and he knows this evidence. Obviously, his life's on the line. Kind of. I mean, he's already going to be in prison forever. More of side of the road case. You heard yourself lie over and over again, describing the unknown assailant. You did this as effortless. Here's the thing. This is the side of the road case is after these murders occurred. He is saying, and you lied so effortlessly in that side of the road case, just like you've been lying here today to this jury. It's just not how this other bad acts evidence is supposed to be. If you have been convicted of a crime of moral turpitude, like fraud, here's what you get. You have been convicted of a crime of moral turpitude. Yes. Sometimes they'll let you get into what it is, fraud, and you lied. Yes. That's it. You don't get into every single little lie that you told throughout that case. It's not how it works. The only reason they were able to get into all this is to prove motive and the web that he had woven. Weaved or woven? I don't even know. You can pull off lies in great detail. You've done it before and you're doing it again. Really not sounding like motive. Okay, here was one of the worst questions throughout cross-examination. I think he thought it was going to be a hard-hitting question, but it was one of the worst ones. Mr. Murdaugh, are you a family annihilator? I at first thought he was talking about stealing money, ruining families. But then Murdaugh was like, are you asking me if I killed my son and my wife? Because the answer is no. Then he listed about 50 people that Alec Murdaugh has lied to. Lied to your mom, your dad, your brother, sister, clients, partners, whatever. It's like, yes, we know that. Prove that he's a liar. Then, again, Murdaugh talked so much. He was explaining stuff, and he's like, oh, you want to keep explaining that one? Anything else you want to say? And Murdaugh was like, I will answer whatever questions you have. I'm explaining some of the answers, but I'll keep answering whatever questions you have. We can talk about that if you want to. Then, here's the last question, which I thought was a good question, even though I think Waters, a lot of lawyers are used to being able to get away with certain things because we as lawyers are much more nitpicky about words than your average layperson, but not Alec Murdaugh because he is a lawyer. Let's listen to the end where he says, This is the same lie again that you've been telling about not being down at the kennels and about, the last time you ever saw him was at supper or whatever, and you didn't go back down to the kennels. He said it's the same lie. And while I think it's a good question, the more I listened to it, I'm not so sure it was the same lie.
Come on, bro.
Okay. When was the last time you were here with them? Or talked to them or anything like that?
It was earlier tonight. I don't know the exact time, but
Okay.
I left. I was probably gone an hour and a half from my mom's, and I saw them about 45 minutes before that.
All right. So before we get to what I thought was a very good question by Waters, that is not the same lie. And I'm nitpicking. I'm a lawyer. Words are important. Saying that you were at your mom's for an hour and a half and you saw him 45 minutes before that, that's lying about the time that you last saw him, but it's not lying about not being at the kennels. It's not lying about the last time you saw him was, on after supper on the couch, whatever. That time period could have still been the last time I saw him was at the kennels. And I thought the defense actually did a good job about, you were wrong about some of the times. The time Paul showed up, the time you got to work, the time you did that. You were wrong about a lot of times. Were you lying every time, or were some of them a mistake? Some of them were a mistake. And so this was where he's just talking about times, which could be a mistake on the timeline, which lots of people made mistakes on the times throughout this trial. But it wasn't the same lie about not being at the kennels, which is the big lie, as we can all agree. So I don't know why he picked this one. Actually, I do know why he picked this one, because he's going to say, this wasn't about SLED. This wasn't, he does it better than I would do it. So let's listen to Creighton's ask this last question. And I also, again, thought Murdaugh's answer was good, and Waters just sits down and doesn't argue with him anymore.
That was Sergeant Green, correct?
Yeah, that was Sergeant Green.
And at that point in time, SLED was not there. No one had gotten GSR from you. Your law partners or Sheriff Hill were not there.
That's correct.
No one had asked you about your relationships. David Owen was not there.
That's correct.
But you still told the same lie. And all those reasons that you just gave this jury about the most important part of your testimony was a lie too. Isn't that true, Mr. Murdaugh?
I disagree with that.
Nothing further.
I thought it was a good question. I thought he gave the right answer. I disagree with you. Not a big argument. And defense came and rehabbed it a little bit in redirect. So again, multiple times throughout, I felt like Waters made a good point, asked a good question. Murdaugh had a pretty perfect demeanor, I thought, throughout the entirety. If you want to think he was lying, I thought he was lying at certain times, and we can talk about some of them. But I thought he had a pretty perfect demeanor throughout the entirety of his cross-examination. Redirect, they put it on the record. Again, we spent a long time talking about financial misdeeds, $500K to Eddie Smith for pills. They talked about Paul's swollen feet. Talked about how he was making phone calls as well. So you can't ditch and clean weapons and wrap weapons in raincoats and transfer them to the car and clean off the blood and get rid of the clothes while you're also making phone calls. I think we can all agree on that. And he was making multiple phone calls between 902 and 906. So again, none of it just makes sense. And that's the hard part, is when none of it makes sense and we can't really explain it, the state can't prove what happened. That's where I'm at. I don't think Alex, all of his stories line up and make sense, but I don't think the state's theory lines up and makes sense either. And then, roadside shooting was he intended to die. He voluntarily came out and told the truth. But then this was also really interesting, and something I've said on these streams a few times is, and I have some questions a lot of questions we're going to get to, which is going to be fun. And I'm going to work a lot of the stuff I still want to talk about into those questions. But just let's think for a second. Let's think Murdaugh didn't do this. Okay. If he thought he didn't do it, a lot of the questions, why lie? Why lie about the kennel stuff? And they asked him this. And so to understand his answer, he's trying to prove he didn't do it. So assume he didn't do it for this answer. He did not want them to think he did it. He did not want them to arrest him for this and then not get the real murderers. And whether or not he was down at the kennel doesn't help them or hurt them in catching who actually did it, which is true. If we have a video, we know Paul was alive at 8:45 and Maggie was alive at 8:45 because we could hear him. If somebody else did this, Alec Murdaugh's lie does not matter. If he did it, it's the big lie. It's just like I was talking about how long he was at his mom's house. It doesn't matter whether he did it or whether somebody else did it. Doesn't matter because Shelley was with him the whole time. He couldn't have done anything. And he didn't show up in bloody clothes with GSR all over him. Just interesting, like thought-provoking stuff. I thought this case had so much of that. All right. We're about to get to rapid fire questions here, not presented by Lemon Perfect Water yet. So thank you to everybody that's written in, asked questions. I know some of these are from over an hour ago, but I'm going to get to and hit as absolutely many of them as I can. Hit that subscribe button if you guys haven't already. Hit the like button, see if we can break our records here, get more than 12,000 likes this time. And keep the subs climbing, even if you disagree. Even if you think I'm biased. Maybe you'll think I'm biased for the other side on the next one. Sometimes I like to talk to people that are biased on the opposite side because we can kind of see where they're coming from and what pieces of evidence they think are most important and how they view certain things. All right, let's get to it. Ron, good to see you in the chat. I think it would be good optics if Jim asked AM, you admitted to all the financial stuff you're charged with. Do you understand you're going to prison for the rest of your life on them? Then what would be the benefit of lying here? I agree. I think they've gotten that type of stuff in that he's going to prison forever. But I agree. I like that question. Seems really inadmissible, but they're getting away with all sorts of stuff. Trisha, the prosecution's redundant financial filibustering is more difficult to listen to than the details of the actual murders. Not convinced of guilt. Marty, hi, Peter. Am I wrong for believing circumstantial evidence is not enough for a guilty verdict? Twitter seems to think that I am. Got turned upon. Yes, circumstantial evidence is enough. But the circumstantial evidence still has to prove he did it. What would circumstantial evidence look like? Well, it would look like, and actually there are certain things that some people think are direct evidence. Other people think is circumstantial evidence. But if they found the clothes burned on the property, if they found the guns melted or a little, bit of the metal from the guns melted on the property, if they found things like that, if they actually put him there from 8:44 to 9:10 at the kennels, if they actually had him in the background at the kennels or his phone pinging at the kennels, if he didn't not have his phone on him the whole time, if he and Maggie did get in a big fight, she was going to seek a divorce, she was going to try to take him for everything and turn him in for everything that he did, that would be more circumstantial evidence in my opinion. Coco, AM will beat this murder charge, but SLED has reopened the Gloria Satterfield case so they get a chance to redeem themselves and pin him for murder allegedly. He'll be in prison for the rest of his life either way. Caprice, sent you a DM on Twitter I'd like to know about. Okay, I will check it out. Madeline, curious if gunpowder residue can be completely cleaned off hands and body. The expert said yes. Don, Peter, do you know anything about the Stephen Smith murder being linked to Buster? Maybe why he is showing loyalty to AM because he may have gotten Buster out of a murder charge. A lot of deaths linked to this family, a lot of speculation, a lot of kind of conspiracy theories. I don't know. I didn't know everything about this family. I'm learning a lot during this trial, and I'm not watching any documentaries or anything like that because a lot of people are saying, oh, this gave me the right context. And I think it gave you context to stuff that was inadmissible or else it would come in. Carsto, thanks for doing these nightly recaps. Thanks for doing this nightly update. Why doesn't the state have AM take a lie detector? Would that be admissible if positive? No. Lie detector tests are not admissible. DMC, if credibility is the reason they brought up the financial crimes, why is the prosecution letting him say, I did it, I lied, I stole, when AM has entered a not guilty plea on the financial crimes? This is all the weird stuff that we don't know what's going on because you can plead not guilty for a million reasons, okay? So we don't need to get into that. But he was trying to meet with them to talk to them about the financial stuff, and they didn't want to. Seems like he maybe was willing to plead guilty or confess. Deborah, so let's get this straight. You lied to your mother, father, brother's wife, son, coworkers, clients, but police investigators, the murder of your loved ones, but now you're telling the truth to this jury. Okay, I get it. That's Waters' argument, but I mean, if I asked you, Deborah, you ever lied to your husband if you're married, or you ever lied to your mom or your dad or your brother or your sister or your friends? You ever lied to them? So you've lied to them. Are you lying to this jury? We're not allowed to do that. Point is, they were able to get into all these lies because it was the motive. Michelle, hi, Peter. I feel like CW had AM and then bombed. So disappointed. I think he is guilty, but the state has not proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Honestly, think the jury will find him guilty. Got my perfect lemon. Cheers. Yeah, I would not be one bit surprised if he gets convicted. I wouldn't be surprised with any outcome at this point. I really wouldn't. Judy, P, why would he lie at all about the kennels if he did not know the time of their deaths? It's a good point, but he knew they died in a short period of time. He probably thought they died between, again, assuming he didn't do it, he thought they died between 9:06 and 10 o'clock because that's when he was gone. So doesn't take a rocket scientist or the person who did it to figure out that was the time of death. Stephanie, maybe they didn't know. Maybe they didn't follow up on the financial crimes before the trial. If he was convicted of those, he couldn't take the stand and testify here, right? Yes, of course he could have. Of course he could have. They just would not have been able to get into the details, I don't think. I guess maybe they still would have if that was the motive. Rhodey, if you were on the jury, what would you really go? I have reasonable doubt. It's definitely been interesting. This would be a very, very, very easy not guilty for me. And I'm going more in that direction as time goes on. This is not how it's supposed to be done. But I also, because of the knowledge I have in doing that, that's why I wouldn't be on this jury. That's why they don't want lawyers like me. American Lady, it's hard for me to believe AM keeps repeating, which is a stall tactic. What is the rebuttal process to prove AM's lies? Process is they get to call witnesses. I don't know who they're going to call. Could you please do a poll tonight? Thanks for all you do. If you're here listening, you can throw up another guilty, not guilty. Throw up a hung jury too, just to see. Class Act Beauty, thank you so much. I've been watching this trial every day and have watched your lives every day also, and you are not biased at all. Thank you so much. I assume most of you don't think I'm biased or say it in a way that's different than the way I say it, that you think I'm leaning defense, which I am this case. I do feel like I'm leaning defense as the case goes on based on what's happening in court, which is totally fair. And a lot of you are leaning prosecution, which is totally fine too. I completely agree with what you're saying. I get it when you say we have to do better and expect better. Keep up the great work, MVP. Thank you so much. Tori, this channel is about learning the law, not gossip and drama. Fact is, the prosecution has had very little facts to prove he murdered his wife and son. That's the reality of their trying to muddy the jury with his lies and addiction. I tried to pop in also to Emily Baker a couple times today when I had some time, and it did not sound like to me she thought they slam dunk proved this case beyond a reasonable doubt. I think she thinks there are some jurors that might feel that way, and some jurors that might not feel that way. I think it'd be interesting to talk to her more about, do you really think this is how it should be done? Do you think they should be blaming him for not bringing the shirt and the khakis? Do you think they should be blaming him for the OnStar data and the fact that he doesn't know exactly where he was walking from 902 to 906? Does he have to prove all that? Or does the state have to prove he actually did this? Because I think she'd say the state has to prove that he did this. Paula Graham, what's your best guess for the Waters 1 or 2 rebuttal witnesses? I have a guess as to who it's not. And that's Eddie, cousin Eddie. Bev, 99 times out of 100, when someone starts a sentence with clearly, see multiple examples from Creighton today, they're losing an argument and they know it. Go team Whitney, Brooke, beat those stinky boys. Not tonight. Although Brooke was the only one that had a hole in one, and she had 2 of them. Greg Hall Art, could they have done this in hopes of a guilty for murder, but if not, save money on the financial crimes? Apparently. I don't think that's actually what they did, but I don't know. 206K and climbing. Good job, Peter and everyone. Thank you so much. I see you. Did you see AM got a misdemeanor arrest warrant today? No. For what? EJ, Peter, do you think the judge is harder on the defense because he is disgusted with the disgrace AM is? I think it's very possible. Creighton lost me these past 2 days. Prosecution has not met the burden. Said it from the start, hung jury. A lot of people are saying that. Susanna, confirmation bias. I had to stop listening to Manti because of it. Just give a fair report. I feel like I'm trying to, and then I'm telling you kind of where the report is taking me. But I'm not starting with something. I definitely didn't start. I feel like I started out on the guilty side, even though I didn't. I presumed him innocent, but I thought they were going to be able to prove a lot more than they have. My guardian angel, Peter, understanding what you're saying, I just wish SLED did a better job. I agree so much. because I believe he was involved somehow. Maybe they could have charged AM differently, like conspiracy. Nicole, Waters spent too much time beating a dead horse. Show proof of murder. Jesse Sue, Waters ruined it for me today. I think he had a part of it, but didn't do it. I can't remember things I said and I did a day ago, let alone after going through all he has and the time that's gone by, but I can't confidently say guilty of murder. Thank you, Jennifer. Welcome to all the new members, including Don't Worry About It. Melanie, I think we need to remember that 2 people's lives were taken and they deserve justice based on the facts, not feelings. AM is awful, but we are fans of justice here. Big fans. Rachel, who wouldn't deny being at the kennels? The spouse always did it. I came into this thinking guilty. Now, absolutely not. I agree with you. He knew he was going to be a suspect. Lucky Sarita, was it me or did Cross skip the blue jacket? No, Lucky, it was not you. They did. Completely. They didn't ask a single question about a ton of stuff we heard about. They didn't ask about GSR. They didn't ask about the clothes he was wearing. They didn't ask about any of that. They asked a lot about financial crimes. And I told you, that's how you can tell what Waters actually thinks is good evidence and what is not. Pierre, do you think his almost certain time for financial crimes will make it easier subconsciously for the jury to let him off for murder? I think that's what the defense is trying to do, but I don't know if it's going to work. Amanda, in my opinion, Waters prematurely charged AM because he legitimately hates him for good reason. It's sad that a personal vendetta is being cloaked as a mission for justice for MM and PM. That's the sad part, is that there are victims and their families are involved. And I mean, Murdaugh's going away forever. And not a fan of AM, but I found Waters very off-putting today, especially. And the 11-year-old perpetrator's sarcasm, not a great look. I don't like that either. Ashley Sissel. Before this trial, I thought AM was guilty. The only evidence the state has proven is AM is a liar and a thief. No evidence that he committed the murder. Andrew. If an appeals court finds that the financial info shouldn't have come in, does that invalidate AM's admission, fruit of the poisonous tree? No, because he's still saying them under oath. So I think they could still be used against him in future trials. Kim. Honestly, so many details I wouldn't know about myself either. I walked in random rooms and throw my phone so many places, or it's like under a pillow or whatever. If you're not expecting a murder, you don't know about small details. I agree. And that's the only reason I could understand that like he didn't remember the last conversations, because it's not like they were dying and they were sick with cancer or something like that, you know. Lamb Cash. Biggest flaw in this was that CW kept asking him about the 4 minutes before he left for Alameda, hammering it, which was dumb because we were supposed to think he hid guns, clean up massive amounts of blood in 4 minutes. I agree. He talked about how he couldn't even drive back to the house and sit on the couch in 4 minutes, but he was able to get rid of everything in 4 minutes, 4 different minutes. I don't know. Donna Watson is a new member. John, thank God the lawyer you know can keep emotions out of the courtroom, just factual like it should be. It's the only way. Ryan Farrell, how would you approach a defendant who answers unimportant questions with unnecessary detail, but only answers important ones with ambiguity? I do not think Creighton even said he answered some questions with a lot of detail, even the important ones, like what he did when he was at the kennel before he left. So this was not the case, but how I would approach it is give him answers, make things seem impossible, make it seem like all this in 4 minutes, kind of like I was saying before. That's how I would approach it. I would give some of the details. Welcome, Danielle. Brendy, sorry if this is a dumb question. Do the jurors have to tell each other why they are voting guilty or not guilty? How does that part work? No. They can just vote and sit there and not say anything else. Usually it doesn't happen. Man Nam, only reason to lie about the kennel is he knew when they were dead. Okay. Jamie H. People in court said one female juror had a blanket on her head and tissues in her ears. Could defense ask her to be removed? Yes, absolutely. You could ask her to be removed. If that's the case. I mean, we've asked for jurors to be removed because they were falling asleep. As a prosecutor, I did that. Defense attorney, usually that's a good sign for you. BBN turned up. Too many lies about that night. Golf cart angle. I actually have heard some people that have done some reconstruction saying it's actually impossible that he did, not impossible, very unlikely that he did it from the golf cart based on those angles. I don't know. K-Jab. It's so sad Maggie and Paul aren't represented by the AG. They didn't really investigate his personal with Waters. possibly since law school. Yeah, he did make a weird thing about, we just missed each other in law school, and Alex was like, yeah, I didn't know you. It does seem there were some weird questions where maybe Creighton was like a little jealous of him. I don't know. Just Joe, not jealous of him now, that's for sure. The phones never walked together, not guilty, and was never in his car. Just thank you, doing a great job. Thank you, Lit Real Red. Emily Biz, welcome. Ashley, Waters consistently called out Alex for changing his story to fit the facts, yet the prosecution did exactly the same thing with his clothes. I don't even need to add anything to that. Alyssa, you think Waters' passive-aggressive follow-up questions allowed AM to filibuster? Why didn't he lead? I think his plan was to let him to continue to lie and explain away in a way that was so unbelievable that Waters was basically going to be like, it's what he does, members of the jury. He lies. He adds details. He's very convincing. It's exactly what we expected. He cries. We knew it was coming. Laura, I still don't think either side has proven time of murders. Thoughts? Laura, I agree with you. And guess what? That means the state loses. The defense does not have to prove time of death. The state should have to prove when the murders occurred and how. That's their job. It's their burden. Adventures of Aaron. Man, the prosecutor played by Angry Paul Giamatti has really made it apparent he wanted to bury him for financial and murder charge is suspect. Like him better in Sideways. Dixie China. Did anyone else see Agent Owen sneakily give the middle finger in the discussion, asking 3 times for OnStar data? The judge is biased for prosecution. I did not see that. Jay. Hey, Pete, do you agree the whole trial has been a circus? Yes. The fact that he lied about the time is huge, but yes, defense should have asked about murder. I think you mean prosecution. I agree. JZ. Tell me one thing that proves beyond a reasonable doubt that AM did it. Not guilty. I agree. We know he was there at a time that they were both alive. That's what we know beyond a reasonable doubt. He was there at the same time they were alive. Cindy, I am new to this story, but where was Alec still living, son, during the murders? I get the feeling he is covering for someone. Oh, Buster. No, he was away. He was away with his girlfriend and they drove up together. Peggy Wolf, I want to think he's guilty. After this cross, I'm more convinced he's innocent. Donna, thanks for the super sticker. Crystal, utmost respect for your common sense, lawful law. Thank you. Marjorie, do you think it would have been better if one of the other prosecutors crossed? Waters had too much emotion and AM worked the crowd way better. No, I think Waters is the right guy. He knows the case the best out of all the prosecutors, like the totality of the case. Linda T, Waters blew it today. Prosecution weak, in my opinion. Ranger, I absolutely believe he did not do the murders. CM, not guilty for the murders. Waters was too theatrical and focused on one thing, and it was the murders. He will be locked up for life regardless. Elf, if Waters making commentary after response, is Waters making commentary after response routine? He was this case. Sorry, but you can't fake this crying. I don't know. Canna, I feel like Alec has his own language. I agree. And he need nicknames for everybody. I thought I had a lot of nicknames for people. Janelle, AM was the only one in the area per tower data. Koberger left his phone at home when he came to allegedly commit a murder. Carrie, Waters was incredibly off-putting to me. I felt like he was trying to rile AM up, but it didn't work, so it just made him look overly aggressive. I agree, AM did not get worked up. Margaret, CW actually managed to get me to see AM with sympathy. I've heard this a lot. You're not alone. He also made me want to stick a hot poker in my own eye to distract me from his grinding, repetitive, snarky cross. He's all over the place. No proving beyond a reasonable doubt, not guilty. I could only listen to it on 2 times speed. Melanie C. Uhtred, you seem a little peaked tonight. Hope you're still having fun. We appreciate you. It is fun. Sometimes it's annoying, I will say. Mostly Twitter. Twitter can be annoying. I should probably just stop reading replies in Twitter. But I love, like, people are like, you don't know criminal law. It's like, okay, tried a bunch of criminal trials, including longer ones than 4 weeks, which Dick Harpoolian, by the way, made it seem like a 4-week trial. It's like, Judge, one person couldn't possibly handle closing him in a 4-week trial. It's like, yeah, but it happens literally all the time. But I also don't think it's a big deal that if they split it, that's a dumb rule. Some judges have that rule, but I always thought it was dumb. It's like, if we take the same amount of time, what does it matter if 2 of us get up and split the closing? Leslie D. Waters has nothing to work with, so he harped on minor things over and over and over and over and over. Mind-numbing. He was terrible. Debbie O. Do you use the word "would you agree with me" phrase in your questioning? I find it really annoying. In case you want a prospective juror's opinion, I never do. I usually will do with correct. You said this correct, and you do that correct, and you don't do this correct. I don't usually use you. You would agree with me, or you wouldn't agree with me. I don't like that either. Jay, the problem is that it is a story. That's why it keeps changing. Did Sled do a good job? No. Is AM a murderer? Yes. Guilty. Jay's been convinced the whole time. John O'Rourke, to me, this means too many people can afford HBO. Power Printed Heart. Alex wasn't railroaded. Alex just kept changing his story, admits to being in the kennels the minutes of the murder, using Paw Paw and Mags. Annoying. I don't love those nicknames either. My life in the craft room. The 911 call was made via his Bluetooth. His story doesn't add up. He wasn't even out of his car while on the phone. I think Waters would have made that a pretty big point if that was true. And I don't remember hearing that. Welcome, Cynthia. Marjorie, so tired of Waters throwing spaghetti at the wall theory of this case. It's reasonable doubt for me. Guilty of a lot else, that's for sure. Jen Burns, my cross was narcissistic PD and did pills. People expect AM to act and react normally, but he made perfect sense to me. So many re-dead horses today. Waters drowned us all. P.S. You're level-headed and fair. Why your army loves you. Thank you, Jen. Quesadilla. Oh my gosh, Peter, he knows who killed him and why. He knows who butchered his child, his baby who he held in his arms. You know he does. Gosh, when you say stuff like that, it's just so sad. I just can't imagine. It's so sad. Kim D. And Sled Agent Owens lied to the grand jury. That's true. That's not great. The more I thought about that, I was saying he didn't lie. I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, but it's not a good look. Sherry D. Dogs on 911 call. You can hear when he gets closer to them, which I think proves he was checking them. Okay. Gingy Probs. The 12-year-old thing made me so angry. It is annoying. Jacqueline Weaver. Thank you for the super sticker. Hair Bear. I think he's the reason they're dead, but not by his hand. Drug acquaintances. I think that's plausible. Grace J. You're so insightful, Peter. I would never have thought about the things Creighton didn't refute, sowing more doubt in Sled than everyone already had. Kangi Cosmos. Though through articles and videos about the boat accident, people in the comment sections, etc., would threaten Paul. I saw several years ago. It's when we see celebrity threats or stalking, these are random people. That's true. Janelle, please smash that like button, everybody. Yes, please do. And subscribe. John, Waters 1000% was trying to put words in AM's mouth. Thoughts? Absolutely, but AM was too smart for it. A lot of witnesses would say yes or agree in times that AM did not. NCRN, think about it. If I was coming clean for the first time in years, I would stand firm on every small thing like Alec Murdaugh is doing. Example, yeah, I did look at that person in the eye, but not that one. Tim McIntyre, Paul's girlfriend claims he beat her. How tall is she? I don't know. Ex-Smuggle, I live in the UK and this level of media bias and constant talk about other crimes would never be allowed. It just seems like a get-even case now. Jay is back. I felt at moments that AM was getting so worn down that he might confess. Oh, wow. If you listen to his answers, he gives them insight to the murder. And if Waters would shut up, AM might have hung himself guilty. Jay's got a funny way of saying things. I love Myrtle Beach. I love the golf there. A lot of questions tonight. John, I feel comfortable saying AM is the hardest cross Waters has ever experienced. I think that's possible. A. O'Connor, I can't stand to watch it. Are they done? Is the jury deliberating? Not yet. Next week, though. It seems like early next week, maybe mid. Marie, Peter, you are wise beyond your years as far as the law. I don't know about that, but I mean, I've done a little bit. Paul, hey, Auntie Luann. Ms. Escobar, I'm not guilty. Waters should have watched The Lawyer You Know and took some advice. By the way, my husband said, thank you for me spending $30 on Lemon Perfect. I know. I get on my wife, but I still drink. And she's always like, you're the one drinking all of them. That's true. Maybe I can get us all some discount codes or something. Ashley, AM did great on the stand the last 2 days. I'm shocked at how many people said that. DMC, understanding propensity evidence has been worth the investment of this trial. We would all be in trouble if ever charged, especially if you have a cell phone. Val Daca, thank you. Mary Lee, how did Maggie's blood get on the steering wheel if he was on 911 call checking the bodies and until the police arrived. He wasn't. He drove back to the house to get the shotgun and then back out there. Thanks again, Valdaka. Lindsay, I can't stand Waters and the way he twists words. Murdaugh is a career trial lawyer and easily recognizes the nuance. I agree. Gotta wonder how much Water gets away with when questioning a layperson. Bad faith lawyering at its finest. I don't want to say he does that. I think this one hits a little close to home for him, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But he was definitely trying to twist some stuff today. Esme, thank you. And C. Davis. I got to be honest, though. I mean, Alec Murdaugh, I'm pretty sure twists and lies stuff with stuff, too. Ziggy, I flip-flopped a lot, and I hated watching this cross, but I'm still not guilty. MM and PM deserve much better than all this. It's frustrating. I agree with you there. Jamie, Peter, you are telling it like it is, and people need to hear it. If the jury convicts, he could get the death penalty. I think that's not going to happen. South Carolina has it, but they're not seeking it in this case, which is another reason why it's like, why are we doing this? A SLED did not do their job. Keep being you. Sue, why didn't he just say, Mr. Waters, I just witnessed my wife and son had been murdered. I can't remember everything I said. I wouldn't be in my right mind and had been read his rights. I agree. But he didn't say that. Trad's photos. I thought it was odd the prosecution talked so much about AM always having his phone, but implied that he didn't have it during the time he was at the kennel, but never asked him if he had his phone with him at the kennels. Well, there was no data, there was no steps, there was no pinging, so I think they knew he didn't, and that wasn't going to help him. Ranger fan, Judge Judy says if it doesn't make sense, it isn't true. Interesting. Please check Twitter inbox, please. Okay, I will. I've gotten a lot of messages. I also, some people ask for like a 5-page paper as an answer, and sometimes I can't give that, so I try to answer a lot of questions here where it's easier for me to explain them. Mo, I'm sorry, but without time of death, I can't convict. If time of death was 8:45, possible. If time of death was 9:30, not possible. Too many unanswered questions. And if time of death was the likely period of 8:50 to 9:06, it's like maybe, but the state has to prove it. Margaret, recovering addict, former pathological liar, current licensed professional counselor. Wow, congratulations. That's awesome. AM is rotten, but also described addiction path lying to a T. Don't think he's guilty. State hasn't proven it. Thank you for that insight. Gingy, if he gets convicted because of 403, 404 evidence shows propensity, not motive, as instructed, is that grounds for appeal? Yes. But they have to prove that that's the reason or that it shouldn't have come in. Raven, it seems to me Waters is trying to testify with his misleading questions. On cross, the lawyers are basically testifying. So that's okay, but twisting and misleading is not okay. Jesse Sue, so where he's admitted guilty on all their crimes, they will still do a trial? Potentially, but I don't think so. I think he's going to plead guilty. Thanks for being awesome, Peter. We appreciate you so much. I appreciate you, Jesse. Jim Cobb. How did he know they were killed by gunshot if he had not gone up to the bodies at the point of the call? That's what I wanted them to ask. He saw his brains on the ground and kind of could see him. I think it was obvious they were shot, but I could be wrong. Nancy, I thought AM was guilty. I no longer think he is. The prosecution is awful. They made me like AM more. I also bought and emailed you about Lemon Perfect. Thanks for great swearless coverage. Thank you, Nancy. Miriam, love Megyn Kelly and your collab there. She thinks AM account doesn't make sense, but how can't she see the state's account doesn't make sense either? Asia, what would you vote and what will the jury vote polls? I would vote not guilty. I don't know what the jury would vote. Darlene, if I was on this jury, I'd hire someone to shoot me in the head. Thanks, Peter. Your channel is my favorite. Thank you, Darlene. Sonia, when is a mistrial called? Do you think this will go to a jury? Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's going to a jury. The judge has to grant a mistrial. Stephanie, the judge's instructions regarding the Fifth Amendment right to testify included asking if he had been convicted of a crime that had to do with lying. Am I understanding those instructions? I don't specifically remember what you're asking or what you're referencing. Esme, state is trying to make something out of nothing. Stephanie, he gives him the colloquy before he testifies to let him know that he's waiving his Fifth Amendment right. They were going to be allowed to get into the lying, but he hasn't been convicted of a crime of lying yet. So I don't think that would have come into play. Thank you, Kathy. Daria, y'all need to read up on compulsive liars and people suffering addictions. Not all, but many live inconsistently, hit their spouse, but not kids. Great coworker, but shoplift, steal millions, but don't murder. Interesting. Ron, I get reasonable doubt, but I'm such a terrible juror because I cannot suspend disbelief enough here. 1, he doesn't scream from the mountaintops. He did not kill them. 2, murders happened in minutes between him leaving and finding them. And 3, I mean, I don't even know again, we just don't know how people would react again, because I keep saying like, this is how I would react, would be different from him, but I don't know if that's fair. My kid's personal Uber driver sent you a Twitter DM about the AM arrest. Interesting. I'll have to look at that. Jacob, bias, you're the best lawyer in your chair, and that's what matters. I am definitely the best lawyer in this chair. Because I'm the only lawyer in this chair. Thank you, Jacob. Drea, rode to the kennels with M&P on golf cart, cleaned up at the kennels, rode back to the cart 3 miles an hour to simulate walking, and made calls. 283 steps, approximately 1150 square feet. I don't think that adds up. Kimbo, I see motive for the firm. They collected insurance, got rid of AM, saved their firm, and let AM take the fall. They knew him and his habits. Every move he and his family made were all mad as hell. Wow. That would be interesting. David, I think the prosecution has realized that they are not convincing with a lot of evidence, have kind of given up on trying to prove he did it, but they're definitely proving he's a liar. J.R. Kuber, fact, we are never going to know exactly what happened. They deserve justice. I'm not guilty after watching AM on the stand. Creighton has zip. Was HD Court guilty before AM testimony? Now not guilty with reservations. Best advice for this jury: follow the law. Hold the state to their burden. And if you think they proved it beyond a reasonable doubt, convict. Caprice, that's what I sent you. Okay, hopefully your name is Caprice Smith. That makes it easier on Twitter, but sometimes people have different handles in different places. Bethany, team not guilty, but still wondering who did it. A lot of people could have wanted to hurt his family. Maybe someone was watching and did it as soon as he left, but also he may be approximately 5'2" in a golf cart. Diane, oh gosh, we're past an hour and a half. All right, I'm going to just fly through these. I got about 5 or 10 more minutes. If the jury comes back guilty, is it possible the judge reserves the verdict due to lack of evidence? No. Pokey, all I want to know, who did kill them? After today, I'm sure he's not guilty. I don't know. John, Peter, you're weirdly good at acronyms. Bahaha. I'll tell you what, reading these questions quickly like this and trying to figure out what you're asking and get an answer is pretty tough. Asia, my husband and I joke all the time that if either of us wound up suspiciously dead and the other is screwed because of how we joke with each other, I'd lie. I mean, that's not funny really, but I mean, I get why someone would lie if they didn't do something. I do. And again, I'm not saying that makes him not guilty, but the state's got to prove more than he lied to me. Tanya, I think it's unprovable either way due to SLED. There you go. That's kind of where I'm at. But it's not either way because the defense doesn't have to prove anything. Law partner on the stand a few days ago said he went back to the kennel and found big piece of Paul's brain they missed. I think it was skull, but still, SLED left so many holes. Yes, so many. Can there be more than one motive? Good point. Yes, there could. But if there was more than one motive, that would make it even less probative to bring in that financial stuff. And it's so prejudicial that when you're weighing that, the 404, 403, then it's even less probative if you have other motives. My voice is starting to go again. CJ, it's only 4 minutes going by AM timeline. If they were dead by 8:50, he had 12 minutes before his phone started moving and 16 before he left the property. Okay. So then if it was exactly at 8:50, then he took Maggie's phone and was walking around with it, killed them both at the same exact time, which I think is hard to do. So then he did all that in 12 minutes and didn't leave a shred of evidence anywhere. Dr. B, Waters came across as having a vendetta against AM's family. No doubt AM is guilty of theft and lying. However, he did not murder his wife and son. Amy, today was the most appalling violation of defendant's rights I've ever seen. This is not justice, but theatrics and trickery. Bethany Marie, well, never mind on the golf cart thing. Haha, not guilty doesn't equal innocent. Absolutely. I'm glad you said that. RD, thanks for being unbiased. I do my best. Not perfect. Janine, thanks for the super sticker. And Gloria, thanks for the super sticker. Dave V, this was a riveting podcast. Likes up. Yes, please hit that like button. There's about 11,000 of us in here still. Michael, if I were on the jury, I would fight to convince any holdouts to convict. There's a mountain of evidence, both direct and circumstantial. In the real world, you cannot explain away that many coincidences. Jennifer, I would like to know whose job it was to remove the dead horse from the courtroom floor after CD was done beating it. Is he done beating it? Right. Econ, thank you. I feel like you are the only fair and impartial commentator for this trial. I think there are others, but I appreciate that. Donna, why charge a weak case spending all stack money? I don't get it. I don't think they should have ever charged it. And that is something I did ask Emily Baker on Rob's thing, and she said she would have never charged it either. And I agree with that. Lori Parker, welcome. Jamie, do you think he was trying to talk to them about the financial crimes and murders to work out a plea deal? Share more info about 6-7? Potentially. Cynthia Taylor, thank you. Donna's little sis, calling you out. You're very defensive tonight. Relax. Okay. My kid's personal Uber driver. I got 99 problems, but a Murdaugh ain't one. Gonna be my new merch. Too soon. We all need a little laugh. Thank you, D. Johnson. Brittany Watts, late to the show. Did Murdaugh have life insurance on Mags and Paul? No. Confirmed. No, none, never. Hildy Summers, thank you. Tampa Toon, just cannot see how this ends with anything other than a hung jury. It seems like a lot more people are thinking that than most cases. Sonia P. Peter, you're awesome. I just feel like this will end in a mistrial. Is that what happens? Or sorry, is that it that happens? Do you think that was the defense's plan? No, I don't think that was the defense's plan. Leah Spurlock, welcome. Natalie, hi. What did you think of the defense's presentation of the computer model of the shooter's angle and height? I just thought it was like whatever. It didn't convince me, but they don't have to prove anything. And I just think that it shows that the state hasn't actually proven how this happened. And there's a lot of questions around exactly how this happened. Grandma Bunny, is this play for better prison if just financial? That's only if it's federal, I think. DM, just got done stocking the fridge with Lemon Perfect. There's no way you won't have an endorsement soon. Thanks for the email response this morning. You're welcome, DM. Ron Berner, I take my opinion back. I hate myself. Oh, stop, Ron. We like having opinions in here. So crazy. I can't get over no gunshot splash or GSR. That is big to me. I do think AM comes off so real on the stand. I agree with you. I need a visual timeline in time of death. I mean, jurors gave him millions of dollars. He's a believable guy and obviously good at lying. Art of experiencing. Thank you. Janelle, Peter, you had a long week. You should get some rest. I am almost done. I am ready to be done with this video, if I'm being honest. Stephanie Coker, financial crime convictions prior to this trial would keep him from testifying on his own behalf based on judge's colloquy instructions. No. The defense attorney said that they may have advised him not to testify more strongly if the financial stuff didn't come in and he didn't have to explain himself. That's, I think, what happened. Good Company HR. Did I get it right that Maggie's phone was moving and Alex's phone was moving, but in different locations, two shooters or another shooter? No, they were never moving at the same time in the same location. Vicky Branlett, I'm going to take your advice. Stop talking and get some rest. I'm going to do that. All right. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for coming out, hanging out. It was fun. Till later, I need the weekend. I'm ready to take a break from this trial, if I'm being honest. I appreciate everybody. You guys are the best. Please hit that like button on your way out. And hopefully we all get to play some pickleball this weekend and drink some lemon water. All right. You guys are the best. Thank you.